Hi there, like she said, I'm Jessica Leva. I run a website called Trend Hungry. It's a fashion blog, and so I'm going to kind of give you some tips that I've used on my blog to help you with your content. So if we want to skip to the next slide. Okay, so the first one is your mission statement. So when you're starting a blog, you kind of want to define what is your topic about. This is like with any other business, you want to figure out what is your niche. So for me, my blog is about budget fashion. So when I picked my topic, I picked something specific but also broad. That way, I always know the kind of content I'm writing about, but at the same time, I'm not running out of ideas. So a great reason to do this is because that way people want to come to your site for a specific reason. So if you're just blogging about everything under the sun, which is fine too, depending on what your goals are, which we're going to get into later, then people might not come to your blog for a specific reason. So I know my audience, and I write about those specific topics because that's what it appeals to. So you want to stick to your niche. You want to define your audience, so that way you kind of, whenever you're considering different kinds of content, you know who it's going to. So is this something they're interested in? Is it not? So it kind of helps you decide what to write about. And what's your voice? And you want to kind of keep the same voice consistent throughout your blog and your social media channels. You want to be somebody that's reliable. So if I'm a budget blog and then tomorrow I start writing about Chanel and Louboutin shoes, then I'm not necessarily true to my voice and I'm going to lose my audience. And I think Shannon's going to go to our next step.
Hi, everybody. I'm Shannon Nelson. I write A Girl's Got a Spa. That is a beauty blog, of course, as you can tell from the name. I'm going into my 8th year of blogging, so I've been doing this a very long time. I also am a social media consultant. I've been doing that for the last 5 years. So everything that I'm going to be talking about today are stuff that I have also given advice to the brands that I work with. And I work with brands that are large globally, as well as startup brands as well. If you can go to the next one, Michelle. Whenever you start a blog, you need to define clear objectives. So whether you're doing this as a hobby or if you're doing it for a business, you need to know exactly what it is that you want to do. So first is to identify key metrics. I don't know if any of you have ever, when you launched your blog, if you set a baseline goals for what it is that you want to do. So for example, my blog in particular, the demographic is all women, college educated, no children, and they review my blog from work, which hopefully they do on their lunch break and don't get in trouble. But also that my age demographic is 34 to 44, which is right in line with, I'm 38, so that's good for me, and it's true to my voice and my age group and my season in life as well. When you're going to looking at your baseline, what you want to do is first start off with who is it you're trying to reach. So just like Jessie said, she's trying to look for, she's doing things with budget-oriented stuff. For myself, I am very broad in what I'm doing for beauty, so it could be a luxury beauty treatment, and it could be something that you're getting off of Living Social for 50% off. But I'm still always trying to look to target the female user. I'm always looking to target the same age group, so 34 to 44. If I start going below that, then I want to go back into my analytics and check out, well, who's reading those blog posts? Because then maybe if I want to dip in further to that, I want to start writing more content that way. What are your goals, both short-term and long-term? Obviously, this can be flexible and fluid for everybody. Short-term goals, obviously, is what do you want to accomplish in the next month? What do you want to accomplish in 3 months? Long-term, 5 years from now, and whatnot. You should be very specific in those goals. So, for example, for myself, when I started, my short-term goal, of course, was, I want more than my mom just reading my blog, and my sister. I want to reach more than 2 people. For myself, I actually met that short-term goal pretty quickly when I was contacted by a fashion magazine in Finland and found out people in Finland were reading my blog, and I was kind of blown away. But long-term goal, for example, some of my long-term goals were that I wanted to be in magazines, I wanted to be on television, but I was very specific about it. By the end of the year, I want to be in 3 magazines. By the end of the year, I want to have booked so many segments. That way, you're keeping yourself on track, almost kind of like when on New Year's Eve when you say, I'm going to lose 20 pounds in the next day after I stop drinking. How do you measure success? So your goals should be measurable. You don't, like I said, you need to be specific, but you need a way to measure them. So obviously, if you all have blogs, which I'm assuming everybody here does, You want to be using Google Analytics, which to me is one of my key things. I also use Alexa because that's free. Well, Google Analytics is free also, but I use both because it's going to tell me each time that there's a shift in any of who I'm reaching, what keywords people are using to find me. And I want to be able to measure my success in terms of, did my blog growth grow by a certain % that I set as a goal each month, each week, each day. You want to be able to see if you're accomplishing what it is you're setting out to do. You can go to the next. Okay, the anatomy of a post. So now this goes beyond, like most people when they're thinking, especially if you're just getting started, you're thinking, okay, how hard could it be to actually just write about whatever it is you want to write about, whatever your goals, your blog's direction is. But it goes into more than that. There is your title tag. So this is what your permalink is. This is also the title of your post. Please do not write in all caps, please. Previously, your title tag could only be 70 characters long. If it was more than 70 characters, then the search engines would cut it off. So if you ended up putting a keyword at the end, it could get cut off. Now it's completely different with all of the Google updates that they keep doing. And now it depends on your pixel width. Pixel width is the size of the character. So obviously a W is much wider than, say, an L or an I. You need to keep that in mind when you're writing out your post titles. Your font size should be between 12 and 14 pixels as well. So I mean, I cannot say that I absolutely hate when I go to a blog and the font is really tiny, or the font is like ginormously huge as if I'm blind, or that changes throughout. You just need to make sure that it's always 12 to 14. The beginning of each post should contain a short line width. I don't know if you know what that means, but basically you don't want to give your readers eye fatigue, because then right away they're going to scan real quick through your posts and miss a lot of the important stuff you're trying to give them. But there also, chances are, if you're going really huge lines across, they're not going to want to read it. So what a short line width is, for example, is you're going to use an image at the very beginning of your post that's half of the content width. So, if your content width is 480, it's going to be half the size of that. And then on the other side would be your content, but don't write like this ginormous paragraph. It should be one sentence or two sentence, space it, one sentence, two sentence, till you get around the image, and then you can go across from there. Because if you remember too, and make sure those first sentences are like, they grab your reader. They're going to tell them what it is that they want to know right away so that they end up reading the rest. Your word count. Previously also people would say around 350 words was good. Now it's actually 500 to 1,000 words. It's more like article writing as if you're reading a magazine article. 500 words to me, like that's the most I can do before I'm exhausted. But if you really want to source something for the long term, you're going to go back into that post later and you're going to extend it out to 1,000 words. Also, your content space. It should only be between 480 and 600 pixels at the most. I don't know if you've ever gone to a blog and you read it and it like goes your entire screen. You don't want that. Again, that's eye fatigue. You want to avoid that. That's the optimal size. And the characters to go across the page as well in that content space should only be 100 characters max, so less than a tweet. And typically to get started, the way I knew how to do that is obviously I copied, put it into Microsoft Word and did a word count, and then I'm like, okay, and made sure that my web designer knew that's exactly the space that I wanted. You want to also make sure that any images you're putting in your post, that when you save them to your computer and you're uploading them to your blog, they're either saved as keywords, because that's how the search engines are going to read them, or it's going to be what it is, like say it's a question. So I don't know, I have a client that's a beauty client, and one of the big ones is how do I remove blackheads? So most of her images, especially if that's what she's targeting in the content of her post, the image files will be saved as how to remove blackheads, because then that's how you have to think the way people are searching. Obviously don't make it entirely keyword based, but you have to remember how they're searching and optimize your images. Because I can tell you from experience, I get a lot of traffic from Google Images just based on doing that for my images.
you. Okay, editorial calendar. So when you're planning out your content, obviously the reason we're all sitting here is because we all want to be strategic and make our blogs grow. So think about a magazine. When a magazine is planning out their next issues, they're planning out 2 months in advance. So they're thinking long term of what are our big stories, what are our fluff pieces, what's going to map out and make this issue really great. So you kind of want to do the same thing with your blog. So what I do is I have an editorial calendar and I kind of start mapping out the kind of content I want to put out. And so this helps me stay really organized, but it also helps me in that I'm not repeating the same kind of content. So like I said, my site is a budget fashion blog. So I don't want to have all the articles about shoes in 1 week because then it's not diverse content. So the calendar helps me stay organized. And then once you kind of start growing your site, this calendar is going to help you with other endeavors. So whether you start getting contributors to your site, then you have to manage them. And a lot of times people think, oh, having a contributor, it's less work. It is, but it isn't, because you still have to edit all their work and you still have to stay on top of them and make sure that it's the right kind of content for your site. So I have a couple contributors to my site and they pitch me content ideas, and from there I figure out what works for what week and I map it out. So that way I don't have 3 girls writing about shoes or lip gloss in the same week, so it's a diverse content. Going off that, to kind of stay organized, categories are another big thing for your site. So earlier when we were talking about a mission statement, how you're going to define your content. So once you have your mission statement set, then you kind of want to go off of that, an umbrella, and think what fits into that. So for me, for budget fashion, technically I do some beauty stuff too, because beauty is very on trend and it has to do with fashion. I do some DIYs, I do some celebrity trends, and so from there I make sure that it's not repeating the same exact type of story daily. And then another thing you can add to your site to keep people coming back are series. So one thing I do on my site weekly is I have video content. So that's another great way to kind of integrate different things, because some people like visuals, some people would rather watch something. The different kinds of content you have is going to keep people coming back. But that being said, the calendar keeps you on schedule. So if someone likes my videos, maybe that's their favorite part, so they don't check back every day. But I do the videos every single Friday, so they're going to know, oh, it's Friday, it's time for another quick bite of info in a video. And then another series I recently started was with guest bloggers, and this is another great way for you to take what you're already doing and collab with other bloggers, and then that way you're kind of almost piggybacking off of their followers. So actually I had Shannon on my site recently, and it's a weekly series every Wednesday talking about different sales, and so I had Shannon weigh in on hers, and then she promoted it via her social media, so then I was getting some traffic from her as well. And so you want to kind of think creatively and interactively. And so when doing something like that, like a series, like I said, you want to stick to a specific day and time, so that way your readers know. But also when you're sharing via social media, think of something catchy. So for mine, I have a different hashtag for different types of articles. So every Wednesday, I have the same hashtag. So that way it could potentially become trending. And when you click on it on Twitter, you can see the previous stories similar. So like we said, showing diverse content. Oh, and then also once your blog keeps establishing itself, you might have the potential opportunities to work with sponsors, or maybe you already have. This is another great time when you really need that calendar, because when you're talking to a sponsor, it makes you look more professional that you're mapping out a specific date and time. And also, we're going to talk about sponsors a little bit too. When you're working with a sponsor, they're going to want very specific things from you, and so you're going to have to map that out up front. And having that calendar is going to keep you organized, but also with that, you don't want to have sponsored content every single day, because people aren't necessarily going to trust your voice if everything is paid. And so we'll go into that in a little bit too, but the calendar.
If I can just add about the categories also. The way you think about categories is basically when people are reading your blog, it's like a book. So categories are the chapters, the tags are the index. So the categories should be broad. So for example, I would be beauty, but then a tag would be narrow. And then that would be like lip balm, lipstick, whatever, so that you're breaking it up. So you have to remember you want to get them to the category, then to dive further into your blog through the tags, the index.
Great. Next slide.
Oh, this is my favorite part. Okay, the content matrix. So, and I had to write this down even though I know it, is that there are 4 pillars to every blog post, and that's the what, where, how, and why. So you want it, what are you talking about? Where can they buy it, or where do they have to go to get what it is that you're talking about? How, for example, I'm going to keep talking about it because I just talk about products mainly. So how the product works, or or how to, it could be as well. and why it is that you want them to do what it is you're talking about in the blog post. So for example, I use a lot of affiliate links in my posts, and so I want to make sure I'm constantly telling them the why so they'll click it and buy it and I can make some money. If that's your goal, that's my goal. The 4 quadrants are to entertain, inspire, educate, and convince. So if you're writing a post that's to entertain, obviously it could be humor in the way you're writing, but it also could be in the forms of quizzes, or it could be any viral content that you find on the web as well that you know is generating a lot of traffic, but that still fits in line with what it is that you talk about on your blog. To inspire, I like to do a lot of inspire posts, which are solutions-based posts, because to me, I feel like I want to meet a need for my audience. I know they have a lot of questions. I'll get readers that will email me and ask me specific questions. And so I like to do things along that line to inspire people that whatever it is I'm talking about, that either they feel they can do it for themselves or they should go buy this, or how that works. But inspire also includes writing reviews of things as well, reviewing something. So if you're a restaurant blogger, you know, going to the different restaurants in the area. And also in terms of real people endorsements and celeb endorsements, and I was just talking to Jesse about this the other day, because my readers could care less about celebrities, as could I. I don't read anything that has to do with celebrities because I work in PR as well, and I know it's all bought and paid for, so I could really care. But a lot of people don't know that because they don't know the back end. So a lot of, you know, Jesse's readers they love celebrities. They want to know who's wearing what and how to get it within their budget.
Definitely.
So so that's why for her then that would be celebrity, would be inspiration, and for me it would be real people endorsements. The next one obviously is educate. So right now what's so huge with everybody is infographics, just because of the whole visual trend and how appealing that is to everybody. So if you have infographics, that's one of the most shareable ways to get your content spread out on the web, is to have a really great infographic. The other thing is to report on trends, your trends in your industry. Obviously, like us, it's Fashion Week, and all the different trends that are coming out. Everybody wants to know, you know, what's the hottest trend for makeup for fall, and blah, blah, blah. But that report on trends is based on your industry. So if you're writing about careers, or obviously whatever the trend is in careers, or I know Carla does veterans and all those types of things, just keep it in line with whatever your niche is. And also for education is how-tos. People love how-tos. I mean, I can tell you how many times I'll type in how to do this or how to do that.
That's the kind of stuff that will go viral and shared on Pinterest and things like that.
Because everybody wants to know an easy way. I don't know about you, but like I should own the easy button, because I'm constantly, somebody else tell me how to do it. So I don't want to do any more trial and error and learn on my own. Sometimes I would rather someone else tell me. This is not related to my blog, but like, for example, I just learned how to make Roman shades, and I was so excited because I found it on another blog. Roman shades like are $500 a piece. So, I mean, I made them out of my mini blinds and just went to Joann Fabric, and at $60, I had mini blinds. So that's a great way. Again, that person got a lot of traffic for me, because then I started, once I took pictures of it, started telling people about it and sharing her blog posts on how to do it with others. So how-tos are huge. To convince people also, so features of a product, the price of a product. So in beauty blogging, obviously, like I said, I use a lot of affiliate links. I want to convince people to make that purchase, and so I'm going to tell them all the features of the products that would meet their needs. Now, one of my things is I hate the way that the brands advertise, because we all know they lie. And so what I like to do is really to go into it deeper with a lot of like before and after pictures. That helps a lot. So for example, one brand that I just started working with is Freeze 24/7. They actually just had me have a Twitter party with them, because I did a lot of really good before and afters to show that the product really works, and I convinced people and they started getting sales from it. So that's another way. And obviously then people start talking about it, and your content becomes more shareable. And obviously too, another way to convince people is price. So budget's pretty easy. If you're writing about luxury or something with a higher price point, so say for example, you know, you own a hotel chain, and you're a luxury hotel chain, and you're trying to like convince that $500 a night, you know, you're going to start talking about why that's an affordable price and what's involved, all the things you get, all the benefits, so that way all of a sudden it becomes like, oh, that's not really an obstacle anymore. This is you.
Oh, sorry. Okay. Okay, so this is like the one that we all probably really care about is our traffic, because the more traffic you have, the more successful your blog is, if that's how you measure your success, the more potential you have to make money. So number one, you need to review your traffic regularly. So as Shannon mentioned earlier, Google Analytics. So that's actually what I use as well, and I'm sure probably a lot of you in the room use it. This is one way to see kind of where your traffic is, where it's coming from. So like Shannon said, images. I get a ton of traffic from Google Images. I get a lot of traffic also just from search engines in general. So you could see, is your traffic organic? Is it from social media? Where's it coming from? Another great thing with this is you could see where you're linked in other websites. The more sites that your blog is linked from, the higher, the better your blog is ranking online. So that means you're more likely to get more clicks and obviously more traffic. And also with keywords, you could check through Google Analytics. What are the words people are searching to find you? How to is huge. I use that very often in my titles because people aren't going to search those like cutesy names that you might think are really fun. Yeah, they're cute and great, but how often are people going to type in like, I don't know, like something with like a ton of adjectives? Instead, they're going to write, you know, how to make curtains. Something that is relevant that they're actually going to use. So think about maybe when you're online and what you're searching for to kind of help you in that. And use that for both your titles and your pictures, because that's what people are going to search. And then kind of also going off traffic, another way that I check my traffic is through affiliate links. So for anyone that doesn't know what an affiliate link is, this is a way for you to make money off your site. So when you link something and someone clicks through it, you can get paid per click or paid per purchase. And sometimes I'll see that maybe certain days I'm making much more money off an affiliate link than another day. And so I review that content and what was that topic about. So people love reading about hair. That's like a huge one that's searched. But maybe people don't really care what shoes I bought the other day, but they'll care what shoes Kim Kardashian bought or a popular outfit. So you want to see what works for you. Like I said earlier, with celebrities, for me, that's what works. People search them really often. When it's a big look on the red carpet, and if you could do it for less, that's something that's going to go viral. It's something that other websites are also talking about too. And then also with your days of the week, different days traffic flows. So weekends tend to not be great. People tend to read blogs during the week at work, honestly. That's when they tend to peruse. Yeah. So kind of keep that in mind too when you're scheduling your content, and think about what time of the day are you scheduling. For me, if I post one early in the day, that's great, because then when people get to work, that's when they tend to read it. If I post something after 2 or 3 p.m., I honestly might as well not have even posted it. Because at that point, people, in my opinion, they're probably at work, they're like, oh no, it's almost the end of the day, I can't goof off anymore, I gotta get my work done. So earlier in the day at least works for me, but you could check all that through your analytics and figure out what kind of content works for you, what works for your audience, and what's gonna get you more hits. Next slide, please. Okay, sponsored posts. I was talking about this a little bit before. So this is probably the goal of most people here. You wanna make money on your site. You wanna make this, you know, a legitimate business, which obviously takes time, and that's why the editorial calendar is so important, because it keeps you on a schedule, and consistency is key with blogging. So when you are at that level to finally get some sponsors, if companies are contacting you or you feel comfortable enough to pitch yourself, you want to set guidelines. So like I said earlier with your editorial calendar, you don't want all of your content sponsored. Then you lose your voice because everything is paid. So how can your reader necessarily trust everything you're saying? It kind of sounds like maybe you're selling out. So you definitely want to make money but still keep your voice. So for me, my rule is 80-20. 80% of my content should be organic and natural, 20% could be paid. And then that being said, with setting guidelines, you want to figure out what kind of sponsors do you want. You still want them to fit within your mission statement. So for me, I won't take a sponsor that if their product is over $100, because my readers don't care about a product that's over $100. And then that being said, mine also has to be on trend and fashionable and something that fits my key demographic. So once you define your mission statement and who your demographic is, that's when getting sponsors becomes a lot easier. And it is really hard to say no sometimes, because you do want to make money, you do want your blog to be successful, and you're so eager people contacted you. We were talking about that earlier. My first sponsor that I ever had was a glasses company, which I don't even wear glasses. and classes aren't really that affordable, but I still took it because at the time I was just, so happy for the opportunity. Since then, things change, you grow, and you figure out who your voice is and who your audience is. And you want to, once you cultivate an audience, you want to keep them. So you obviously want to stick to your mission statement. Do you want to add anything to that one?
And we were actually, when we're talking about setting guidelines, the other thing is too, especially as you really grow your blog and you're going to start having companies contact you, one of the things you're going to notice is not only are brands contacting you, but lots of SEO marketers are contacting you because they want to get their keywords onto your site. They know you're highly trafficked for a lot of their keywords, and so they want to get them on there. So what I do is, especially when I'm setting the price, is I have a certain price of if they're going to write the content, or if I'm going to write it, because if I'm going to write it, I'm going to charge you a lot more money. If also, how many keywords are you going to allow per post? So I'll tell somebody the minimum amount of words that I will allow them to have in a post, like content-wise, will be 300 to 500 words. The most anchor text with keywords that I will allow are 3. That's it. I'm not going to let it be spammy. I'm not going to let myself get penalized by the search engines, for some money. And also because then to your readers too, I mean, it becomes quite apparent.
And also you have to tell your readers that it is a sponsored post.
Exactly, yeah. And that's the other thing, because, and whether or not you're going to allow follow or no follow links as well, that's a big deal. They should be told that up front. Make sure that when you're working out this with whatever company you're working with, it's in writing. Because then you could have somebody say to you, oh, well, I'm not going to pay because you didn't do, this, that, and the other, and then you're chasing them for their money. You don't want that to happen, and obviously you want to make sure they're, both of you are very much aware of that. As soon, like for Jessie, she says the day that it publishes, they need to get paid. I say, as soon as it publishes, I better see that in my
Mine
PayPal
won't go
account.
live until the money's in my pocket.
Yeah.
I mean, everybody sets their own guidelines of what works for them. Like you said, you'll charge different rates depending on if you write the content or not. At this point, I don't feel comfortable enough letting somebody else write the content that's not already a contributor. So it's all about like what works for your site and what works for your voice. And then also to kind of go off this, we didn't include this in the presentation, but when you're ready for sponsors, this is a good time to kind of come up with a media kit that has your statistics and then also what you're willing to offer. That way you have a set package, and that way you're setting the price, not the brand setting the price. Because often a brand will come to you and you'll be super excited, and then they want to pay you like $5 for it, or they just want to gift you something. And you've worked hard to build your following, so you shouldn't give it away for free.
And that's true, because a lot of people will come in and say, I've had this happen to me a lot. Like my Google page rank is a 5, and I'll have people come in and say, well, for a 5, we usually pay, and I'll be like, well, that's good. You're not going to do it on my site.
With them.
Go back with them. But also, in terms of how many times too that you're going to let somebody post an article. So I will usually enter in agreements with people that if they're going to write about a specific topic, then it will be 3 max. And it has to be spread out. I'm not going to do all 3 of your posts like in a month or anything, because then also, again, that does not look, it doesn't look natural to the search engines. All of a sudden you're talking about laser hair removal like every week, you know what I mean? And it's going to the same links as well. They pick up on that.
Definitely.
So. Next. Yep, next one. So guest posts. Obviously this is a little bit different from sponsored posts, but if you've been blogging for a while, then you'll also notice that a lot of companies will contact you to say, oh, do you accept guest posts? Because basically they're trying to say, I want to publish something for free on your site, and here's the benefit to you. You don't have to write it and whatever. And I always come back with, sorry, no, that's a sponsored post. But for guest posts, to me, this is completely different. This is actually one like how I did with Jessie.
With another blogger.
Where I'll do it with other bloggers, where we'll cross-promote and whatnot. But this is in terms of what you're going to do for your own, and I don't know if any of you have Google Plus profiles. So since everything is so visual now, one of the great things about coming up in the search engines, if you have a Google Plus profile, is to connect it to your posts. And there's code that they give you in your Google Plus profile that you can place in the header of your blog template, so that all your posts will then also show up with your face. So make sure it's a nice picture next to your posts when people do searches. I mean, if you think about your own searching, that when you're looking, if all of a sudden an image pops up right next to content, your eye is automatically drawn to that, and you're more likely to click that link to go read whatever it is that was associated with it than if you just saw a line of text. I'm not sorry for all the lava that you can't see the red, but You want to also choose other blogs that either have the same Google page rank or higher. Like I mentioned, I'm a 5, so for me, if somebody wants to exchange guest posts and they're a 1, that's not going to do anything for me. It will do a lot for them. It's not going to do anything for me at all. So I want to stick to, like for me, I've set criteria. I will only guest post with people that are around 3, 4, or higher. Yeah.
How do you know that?
How do I know? There's plugins for that. So for example, I have Chrome, and I use a WordPress extension. I use WordPress to write my blog.
But also you could go to the Google PageRank and just type it in.
Yeah, I mean, I just use it easy because it also helps me when I'm going to go to different blogs or different sites. It automatically will tell me at the top. I believe in Firefox they have an extension as well where it will show you like a bar, and then if you put your mouse over the bar, it will tell you the number. The one that I use is an extension for Chrome. I think it's the only extension. And so all I have to do is press on it and it automatically will tell me the number. I don't have to guess looking at a bar or anything. And so that helps me for me as well. The search engines do their updates every 6 months. And so that's also helpful for you to know, so that way you know if you've lost people, that means you've lost a lot of important links if all of a sudden you're dropping in the search engines, or all of a sudden, you know, you go up. So mine was a 4 for a while. I had been hacked. Please don't ever get hacked. It will cost you a lot of money. And once I got hacked, I was down pretty far. And so now that everything's back on track, I'm back up to a 5. But again, like I was saying, is you want to make sure that it's a mutual, you know, cross-section of traffic. So, I mean, if you're going with a 5, you not only want that link back, but you also want, you know that they're a highly trafficked blog and that they're going to have a crossover to people coming to read your site as well. When you're writing any guest posts, like, again, I keep it to the 3 keyword rule, but make sure that you're including link backs with anchor text within the content of your post on someone else's blog. So for example, if I'm writing about, I don't know, some lip care product or whatnot, I'm going to mention another one that I also wrote about, and I'm going to link back to my site as well. So not only do I have this one guest post there, but now I have 3 additional ones that are being linked back to as well. This says original content only, so I'm sure you're aware that, you know, Google has all their animal updates, penguin, you know, panda, whatever else. And so people are being penalized if you're putting duplicate content. Obviously that's for all the spam blogs out there that were getting a million different domains but putting out all the same trash on the internet. And was also stealing, you know, content and duplicating content as well. So only post original content. Don't give someone a post you already wrote about when you're going to be doing this. And the last one is to reward them. So for example, when you're writing that content that you're going to be guest posting and you're linking back to 3 other posts, go into those posts, edit, and at the bottom, write about, you know, the title to the post you wrote on that other person's blog and link back to it. Obviously that's going to help them as well. It's going to keep reminding people then who just stumble across those posts about your guest posts elsewhere as well. That's going to help you in the search engines too to rank well on their blog. They're going to be so thankful because now they're getting traffic as well, and obviously promote it on all your social networks as well. Okay. And then our last one. So if you didn't notice, this was a treasure map. So X marks the spot. Source content for the long term. So I guess what I should have asked in the beginning is how many, obviously all of you have blogs, how many of you have been doing it for a year or less, if you could raise your hand? Wow, okay. And so for like 2 to 3 years? Anybody more than 3 years? Yay. Okay, that's great. Because one of the things is and I'm sure when you're in the, hey, Harold. Sorry, I just saw you pop out from behind me. One of the things that happens a lot of times when people get started, and I'm sure then all the old timers know, is usually within 3 to 6 months, like you're exhausted and you stop blogging and think, this isn't working. If you, from the beginning, set out to source your content for the long term, I promise you that it will pay off and you'll keep going and you'll be standing here one day and saying, I'm going into 8 years of doing this. To me, I wrote, you know, the frequency in which that you are publishing your posts with using the content matrix and having clear objectives equals a healthy, kick-ass blog. So my kids saw me say that and they were like, why, you're swearing, Mom. We're all adults, though. So you just, I mean, when you're sourcing for the long term, again, so, you know, if we talk about trends, that's fine, but the majority of my content is something I want people to be looking at either tomorrow or years from now. So, for example, even before I came out here today, I was looking into my analytics and I was trying to figure out, you know, okay, what's keeping people coming to my site? And I saw the #1 traffic post on my blog was something I wrote in 2007. And I was like, did I even, what? And I went back and I looked and I was like, wow, that's amazing to me. That, like, it's not something I wrote about now. It was something I wrote about several years ago. And again, then when that happens to you, you need to make sure you go back into that post, you look through everything. So for example, I found out I had expired links on that blog where I was linking with affiliate links, and those people were no longer you know, linking to that product. It was Amazon links, I believe, some of them that I was using. So what I did is quickly updated those links, because to me then, now that's a money source. If a lot of people were coming in there, I was losing money because I hadn't updated the links. And additionally, because it was actually for a lip balm, I went into my blog and I started thinking about, okay, what are all the lip balm products I've written about, and what are the ones I want to bring people to most that have affiliate links that I could make money off of? And I put them at the bottom, and I would say, you know, you might also want to read, and put that in there. I went in to make sure, like, are any of my keywords updated? Because if that's already a popular blog post, then I want it to become even more popular. So it's always good to be looking at your analytics, like we mentioned before. But that, to me, that was just a very good example of how I source content from the beginning for the long term. Plugins are so super important. Even if some of them aren't directly linked to the content of your blog, you should have no more than 30. It absolutely should be under 30. Plugins are the #1 way that your site gets hacked. Obviously, I just said I know that. I got hacked and it cost me $4,300 to fix it. And I wasn't about to lose, as many years that I've been blogging, all that content. There was no way. And because it kept going on for so long, I mean, it infiltrated like you would not believe. Thankfully, I had a plugin that backed up my entire database. So that made that easy to just all of a sudden fill my new content, my new template with my old content. Obviously, I learned that it's very important to have security plugins. So that I have a security plugin for my login, that if somebody tries to log in and after 3 tries, it automatically locks them out. I have one also that constantly scans, it constantly scans plugins and different broken links within my site that people could infiltrate that way as well. I think I was telling you, like the majority of my plugins are security ones, because not only was that an expensive lesson, like for my job, that's how a lot of people find me. That's how I find a lot of work. I can't lose my blog. Let me see. I wrote down quite a few of them actually that I have. Oh, another one for me is blog copyright. That's a really great plugin because, yeah, everybody can talk about intellectual property rights, but I can tell you I got into a real world battle with an actual spa that decided they were going to name it A Girl's Got a Spa. And they hadn't done their research, and I have trademark, actually, and that's a very good idea if you're going to be serious about your blog, is to get a trademark. It only costs $375. It's good for 10 years, I believe, 10 or 5 years.
I think 10 to 12. I just got mine done. So.
And I have trademark on it. Well, they didn't bother to do their research. I've owned the domain for a very long time. So we were able to say to them, actually, I made them an offer that they could license the name, because then that would be another way that I could make money. However, they felt I was just a blogger and didn't want to do it until my lawyer stepped in.
Nice.
And now they actually changed the name. They changed the name of all their companies because they had several locations. So again, that was a good way that I could show, like, I'm very serious about what I do. It's not a hobby for me. And so having a blog copyright plugin is very important. Another one, and this goes to all your content, is Broken Link Checker. You're going to see, and these are the ones I'm telling are for WordPress. So if you're not on WordPress, sorry, Harold, then you can't use these unless you can find one. I know Harold uses Blogger. That's why we've gotten this debate before. So WordPress rules, and
Come on, Team WordPress.
and it just has so many really great plugins that are tested by people. And that's the thing too, is when you're choosing your plugins, you have to make sure it's well rated. Please don't pick one that sounds really fabulous but has not been well rated by the community. And And so for me, broken link checker, what it's going to do is it's not only going to check if my image links are broken, if my permalinks are broken, but it's going to tell me if any of my affiliate links are broken, which is really good because obviously if you're looking to make money with your blog, you want to know, if your link, if it's broken or not. And then I can go to see if any of the other companies I affiliate with have a link to the specific product I'm talking about. Let's see, database. I don't know if you're aware of also, it's called Smush It. And this is to make the file size of your images smaller because, as I point out here, the load time of your site is so key, I can't even tell you. So what Smush It will do is, so say for example, you upload a high-res image, or even if it's just a little more weightier in the file size, Smush It is actually going to compile it, and it's going to make it so much smaller so that when it loads, it's going to be quick. Obviously, I believe they're talking about mobile over there in the next room. We have more people in here, by the way, so that means no. Mobile's actually, everybody knows, mobile's huge. And that's another reason is Google Analytics will tell you how much of your traffic is coming from mobile-based, applications as well as just web-based. So right now, the majority are still people searching from a computer for my site, but I made sure that I use something called WordPress Touch for mine that will automatically convert it into a mobile-friendly site. And then, of course, for all of your content, you want to make sure that you're using plugins that will socially share your content like it's nobody's business. I use one called Twitter, Facebook Social Share. This will get people to pin, stumble, Google Plus it, like anything you can imagine. It doesn't have absolutely all of them, but I also think like it doesn't need to be cluttered in a ridiculous manner as well. You know your audience, so you know where they're, pinning and this and that to all your stuff. Where you place it in your content is also so important. Like we were talking about this the other day. When I started off, I had it at the very bottom above my contents thinking, okay, well, I don't want to divert people from my content. And then I started thinking, wait a minute, like I'm getting nowhere with this plugin. Do I really need it? And I put it at the top. As soon as I put it at the top, bam, like all of a sudden my stumble upon traffic was through the roof and people pinning it. It was crazy. So I was like, okay, well, that's good. I mean, you all learn from trial and error, and you know what's best for your blog and what people are doing. So those are things you always have to monitor as well. The next plugin I use actually goes along with the fast load time as well, and it's called P3. That's Plugin Performance Enhancer. One of the things that has to do with your load time of your blog is to always be checking it. So I use something called Pingdom, where you can type in the domain of your blog, and it's going to tell you, it's going to give you a rating out of 100 where you stand in the load time for your blog. It's also going to tell you whether your blog is much slower and by how much % than other blogs on the web, or if it's faster. It also gives, and this is free, it's in the tools section. So if then you go down to, you can actually, they have an analyzer, so it will actually tell you different things and rate your score. Obviously, if I have a high score on something, I'm not going to really go into that report, but I'm very curious all the time to know about my lower scores. And actually, I recently found out that it was saying my plugins was what was slowing down my site, specifically the Facebook plugin. Because instead of using regular comments, I was using the Facebook plugin so that people could automatically, when they're logged in through Facebook, be talking through their profile, and they can choose to share that comment on their profile, because then that would generate traffic for me. It was slowing down my blog 89%. That's absolutely ridiculous, and it's not worth it to me. So I automatically went in and removed it off my site. But the P3 plugin will help you, and it gives you a graph to tell you which of your plugins are slowing your site down, which ones are not. So to me, that's very important, especially if you want people to stay on the page. And as we mentioned before, again, 2 to 3 keywords per post. I know I saw somebody tweeting before saying don't write for the web, write for your audience, and that's absolutely true. But you shouldn't ignore the web either, because most of my traffic comes from organic search because of the keywords I keep in mind when I write my posts. So, and again, when I'm saying 3, it could be 1 within the content, 1 within the title, and 1 in the image file. And that way, when you come to the site, it doesn't look like to the reader, all of a sudden I have my keywords all throughout the content and it doesn't flow right. it's going to, you know, it's going to look natural, and it looks natural to the search engines as well. So that is our presentation. I hope that you guys learned something.